this is not a topic. So what I'm going to say does not end with a question mark. And then an easy fill in the blank. I personally have been critical of radio programs where the host never tells you what the topic is or never asks you a specific question. Many times I hear radio personalities drowning on the air. They're not getting any phone calls. And they can't figure out why. And the reason is because they did not phrase their topic in the form of a question. Most of the time, I ask you a question. And I believe that's the way you should do it. I just do. But in this particular case, I'm labeling it now so you can listen to what I'm going to say, and then you can respond any way you like. Generally, I will go back in the future to asking you a specific question. This is something you have been calling me and asking me about because I mentioned it on the air previously, and I'm here to give you an update. In case you haven't figured it out, I've been away for the past week. Took some vacation time. And regular listeners know that when I go on vacation, if it's the winter time, like now, generally I'll be found in the warmer climes. I'll be found near sand and surf and conch fritters and hot chicks. That's where I'll be found. Never had a conch fritter? God damn. This time I did something really dopey. Or at least it will seem dopey. I went to New York City, a place I can't stand to be. I can do a day or two in New York, kind of the way I can do a day or two in Las Vegas. But after a day or two, I'm climbing the walls. When I arrived in New York last Wednesday, it was 12 degrees. I'm not exaggerating, 12 degrees. Just as Southern California was about to head up to the 80s and the 90s, I was walking around Times Square in 12-degree weather. And that wind was whipping off the Hudson River. I got to tell you something, it was bone-chilling cold. But I had an agenda. I went to New York. It all started with an email I got from somebody named Eric Bogosian. You know who he is? Eric Bogosian is a performance artist, a writer, a playwright. And the guy who wrote the movie and the off-Broadway play that preceded it called Talk Radio. I met Eric when he was promoting the movie Talk Radio back around 1989. And we knew each other for a while, and then we'd lost touch. And a couple of months ago, Eric sent me an email and said that for the first time, Talk Radio was going to be opening on Broadway. And he invited me to come see the play. Also let me know that he was listening to the program, and it was kind of fun to hear it again, which was cool. And so I immediately said yes, and I had them reserve me a couple of tickets, and I proceeded to make plans to go to New York. And that was when I came up with the idea of, well, then two things happened. I was going to go see Talk Radio, and then I read this book that I've told you about that came out recently called Something in the Air by Mark Fisher. A book that contains almost an entire chapter about me. It's a book about people who made a mark in the radio business in the last 75 years. And I got, quite, it was like a 20-page capsulization of my entire career. Very well done. Very fair. mostly positive. And as I read that chapter in this book, it reminded me of when I was starting out in the radio business. You know the story I'm about to tell you because I told it on the air, and if you were not listening, I'll kind of update you on it. I was thinking back to when I started out in the radio business, and knowing I was coming back to New York, I thought back on an ex-girlfriend of mine who I told you about. This was somebody who I was living with for 3.5 years, between ages 19 and 22, 23, something like that. I guess it was 23. And then I began getting some attention in the radio business in New York, and also was doing a stand-up comedy act with a partner. And then another chick. I was still living with the first chick. But this super hot chick with unbelievable knockers came up to me and handed me her key to her apartment, and I went there. And ultimately, I was a jerk. I was just a complete jerk because unlike people that you hear me talking about pumping and dumping and hitting and quitting, this was somebody who was nothing but good to me. And I was just being a creep. And I was being a creep because, number one, I was 22 or 23 years old, and I didn't know how to handle this. I mean, here I was on stage getting all this attention for the first time. I'd gotten this kind of attention. And so I left. We split. I mean, I had made up some stories to explain my absence for a while, and ultimately my girlfriend found out where I was while I wasn't at home. And it really made her very sad and angry. And she had every right to be sad and angry, but what could I do? I made my bed and I was lying in it. And to make that long story short, for those of you who've heard it already, 1.5 years later, when I broke up with my partner at the time and ended up working at Citibank in customer service, the woman I was living with, the woman I moved in with and left my girlfriend for, she changed the locks, threw all my stuff in the hallway, and told me to call her again when I got a better job. At this point, I was broke, and I had nowhere to go, and there was only one person on earth. I certainly wasn't going back to move in with my parents again. That was never going to happen. There was one person on earth who said, "Come stay on my couch." And it was my ex-girlfriend. After all I'd done, after what a creep I'd been, she invited me to come stay at what used to be our apartment. The 4 months I spent on her sofa were critical in the time that I figured out who I was professionally and what I ended up doing. In those 4 months, I figured out a game plan to become successful in the radio business, and it's when I got up off my ass and started to do it. And I would never have done it, frankly, if I didn't have the opportunity to be on that couch, staying up till 3 a.m. every night, thinking, writing, talking to people, plotting, making tapes, sending them out to radio stations, whatever I was doing. And after 4 months of living on her couch, I left New York City for good. And I moved to Stanton, Virginia, and took a 60-hour-a-week, $160 job working on the radio. And it was from there that I built up my career and ended up here. So as I read back on the early days of my career, I remembered that somebody had done something really nice for me and never really harassed me or harangued me to pay her back. I never paid rent during those 4 months. I didn't pay for groceries. I didn't pay for electricity or gas or anything. You know, I just lived on the couch and felt horribly guilty because after you've done something really bad to somebody and then they're nice to you, you feel like 10 times worse. And I did. So I thought back to how she had been really good to me and I never paid her a penny. And if she hadn't been there, I wouldn't be here. So I told you on the air, knowing she doesn't listen to the show and knowing she doesn't live in a place where it can be heard, I told you on the show that I was going to go to New York and meet her and bring her a token of my appreciation. And when we come back, I'll tell you what happened.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-866.
I think you're a sick bastard.
Yes, I am, dear. But that's why they give me the big bucks.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show. Hey, don't worry. Nothing's changed. I still believe in pumping and dumping. No doubt about it. But this was a special case. So I kind of concocted an evening. This is somebody I've not seen in over 20 years. And I concocted an evening where I combined getting together, having dinner, which we went to a restaurant we used to go to. Or it was like a restaurant we went to years ago that had closed. Very similar. Similar area. And then when we met for dinner and enjoyed dinner, I presented her with this check. A 5-figure check to thank her for what she did for me. Yes, I got the waterworks, baby. You want to know what happened? Yes, yes. There was crying. There was shock. She had no idea this was coming. None. And for those who said she would never accept it, trust me, she did accept it. I knew she would accept it, and she did. And I'm glad she did. But more than that, I had the extra ticket to see the play Talk Radio. And I decided of all the people I knew to take her. Why? Because I said, you know what? There's a lot of truth in this play, and if you see it, it might better help you understand what I ran off to do when I kind of bailed on you where I was going, what I did. So we went, and you got to remember, last time she saw me, I was a 23-year-old punk who was broke. And in reality, she hasn't really followed my career that closely. Knew I was on the radio in L.A., but wasn't really paying close attention to what I did. So we arrived at the play, and in front of the theater, the press agent told me, here, go this way, and pointed, and there was a red carpet. When I got on the red carpet, at least 100 paparazzi were there, and the flashbulb started going, and there was my picture being taken by, I mean, it was a downright feeding frenzy, as it was for everybody who walked that red carpet. But a lot of the photographers knew me from L.A., and they were saying, hey, blow me up, Tom, and all this stuff. And my ex-girlfriend just kind of walked off to let me be up by myself on the red carpet and just watched it from a distance. And then when she saw what happened, and finally when it was done, I came into the theater, and she said, I had no idea. I had no idea this many people knew who you are. She just didn't have a clue. It was very funny. And finally, what else happened? We were watching the play, and if you've seen the movie Talk Radio, which many of you have not, some of you have, it's been on cable a million times. But in the movie, the main character, a talk show host named Barry Champlain, has a producer who is a very attractive female. And at one point, when it seems like Barry is having a hard time or a hard night doing his show, she calls in from the control room and pretends to be a caller with his knowledge. Clearly, they've done this before. She calls in, and she says to the host of the show, I've got a problem. It's my boyfriend my boyfriend, he's great and all, but I want more from him. Like, I want him to love me. And the host says, well, maybe you're with the wrong guy. Maybe you need to leave him. And he hangs up on her. And my ex-girlfriend looked over at me, and I looked at her, and I said, I can't lie. That was me. That was me. A lot of crying, an amazing evening, and it was worth doing. It was a great experience for me and for her. You know, it's one thing to be a jerk to somebody you hardly know. And let me differentiate here. When I tell you pump them and dump them, hit them and quit them, you know. What I'm talking about is people who you don't care about and you don't know and you never had really an involvement with and you never intended to. But this was somebody who was very, very good to me. Very, very. And, you know, she could have done the girlfriend thing that we get these calls about all the time. She could have said, I'm taking you to small claims court. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you. I would have taken you on the People's Court or one of those shows or something. She could have done that. Sure, she thought I was a jerk and a bit of an a-hole. Something that in fact, she said the word a-hole point blank to me without ever having heard this show where I talk about guys being a-holes. So she correctly fingered me as an a-hole, no doubt about it. But she definitely had a different point of view after Sunday evening. And I felt really great doing that. It had nothing to do with her being a girlfriend. It had nothing to do with sex. It had nothing to do with being in love or relationships. It had to do with making right something that had not been made right. It had to do with, you know, going back and doing something good for somebody who did something good for me. And I'm glad I did it. In fact, I'm not only glad I did it, I'm ecstatic that I did it. And I don't know who benefited more, me or her. But while I tell you not to waste your money on some of these broads, in fact, most of these broads, we're not talking about somebody who's that good to you, who you just kind of crapped on. We're not talking about that. I still would do the same thing. I still would avoid giving money to women, giving them the keys to my house, the PIN number to my ATM card, my credit cards. Of course I would. But when somebody gets you at a time in your life when you are desperate and they do something nice for you, it's kind of nice to think back on who those people were and to find them and to single them out. A number of people have said to me, are you in AA or something? This is like a kind of a 12-step thing to do. No. Nope. Nope. No, it's just that I was reading that book and going down memory lane and reading about my early days in this business, and it reminded me of something, a score I had to settle. Unfinished business. And I finished it. Many of you have asked me about the outcome of this, and it was supposed to happen a couple of weeks earlier, but the opening of the show got moved back a couple of weeks, so that's why you didn't have a full report from me, and now you do. So as I told you, there is no question here. There's no question mark at the end of this. There's no specific point to be made other than telling you what happened. But I will give you a chance now to call in and give your reaction to it.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM.
Now, how old were you when she got knocked up?
I was 23.
You were 23. Hadn't you ever heard of condoms?
Yes.
Why weren't you using one?
Because I was a dumb
Yeah, well, truer words were never spoken.
The Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show. 1-800-5800-TOM. That is our telephone number. Okay. Jared, hello.
How you doing, Tom?
Great.
Good. You know, I've been listening to your show for about 4 weeks. I'm new to California, but only by 3 years, but I've just tuned into you. And, I've had, up and down, sort of agree, disagree with you. I'm an asshole myself. I treat women like crap often. I'm always cheating on them and everything. I feel terrible about it because I like women. But, what you did to this young lady, I don't know what it was exactly you did. You picked up her and left her, started your career, and that's great. But you hurt her. But, I got to tell you, man, my confidence has been redeemed in you a bit because of that gesture, man. That was solid gold right there, bro. That was good stuff. You got a heart, and sometimes I wonder if you're just a devil's advocate, but you know what? You got a heart, and I got to hand it to you, man. That was a great move.
Well, again, I do believe in being good to people who are good to me. This happened to be somebody who was an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I must say, I have to give tribute to her because most women have their hand out.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man.
And so I believe in recognizing women who don't have their hand out.
For sure, man, for sure. And if someone does good by you, bro, like, there's, I've had women that treated me great, and I still, like, I would have no reason. Beautiful.
Hey, you can't use the F word. We're on the radio. Like, they let you go. Love you to death. Thanks for the compliment, but come on, bro. We're on the air. Please. Dave, on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom, this is Dave. Yeah.
I know, I just said that.
Yeah, I noticed. I'm really excited to be on your show here, man. I gotta hand it to you. That is really cool. I just moved up here from Idaho, and they're really closed-minded there, man. But coming up here and listening to your show every day on the way to work, and I listen to it in the morning too. And I've grown to like you a lot. At first, I thought you was kind of an a-hole, and maybe sometimes you are, but you know what? An a-hole is just someone that's just telling you the straight truth, and that's what you got to do.
Well, I mean, let's face it. As I said, women generally have their hands up.
Yep.
And so I think you have to be a-holes to them.
Too much of my life I spent, trying to please to a woman that, just could not be ever happy. And, always wanted me to correct all their problems and, and all that stuff about them being on medication and, I went through all of that. And, I moved down here and I moved into a girl's house and, shortly after she coaxed me into her room, and things got hairy there for a while, and listening to your show, I moved out of her room. And things got better.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a roommate, you need to look somewhere else.
Yep.
And not have the person you're having sex with be your roommate.
Yeah. Yep. I'm actually looking for a room right now. I've been taking everybody your advice, and, man, my life is a lot better.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate the call. Daniel, on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Oh, Mr. Leykis, it's good to hear that you're feeling ecstatic rather than just great.
I am.
Oh, it's awesome. I wanted to tell you, man, I listened to you pretty regularly for several months, and I happen to be a bit of a romantic, and I started to get really disenchanted by the truth, and I know you're spitting the truth, so I couldn't deny it. But with this, I was like, I could not be more proud of you. It's the kind of stuff that I wish I could do. I've known people where I wish I could have done stuff like that for them, and I'm not in a position to do it. And I think it's awesome. I mean, I'll be listening again just to on the off chance that I'll hear one of these stories where something like this happens. I think it's great.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. And on a side note, I know you happen to be an atheist, and I have no real problem with that. But I'm a firm believer in God, and I'll be telling him all about it. So on the off chance that I'm right and you're wrong, he'll be knowing about it.
Thank you, I guess, Daniel. Of course, if he's all-knowing, he already knows about it. No need to tell. Aaron, on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Yes.
Man, you're the man. Like I had a problem calling you Dad, but today I can. Father, you've done good.
Why, thank you.
You just make me want to be a better person.
Well, you know, I've had my moments in life of being a complete jerk and completely inconsiderate and an a-hole. But if you ever find yourself in a position like I am, where you feel satisfied in your life and successful, I'd recommend this to anybody. Go back and find it could be a teacher, it could be a guidance counselor, it could be a neighbor. If there's somebody who was good to you in your life, you won't believe how much fun it will be to go seek them out and do something nice for them.
Yeah,
I know I sound like Pollyanna, but for whatever reason, you know, I'm an a-hole damn near most of the time.
I agree,
once in a while,
I am too.
Once in a while, to recognize somebody who was good to me, a complete a-hole, it felt good to go back and right that wrong.
It's so admirable. You know, I mean, the girls that call up on your show, they'll hate you because you're truthful. You know, and you're right. People do always have handouts. It's the one that's not empty
well,
and has their handout.
You know how many women have demanded? I'm not going to name any of them by name, but women who've been my girlfriend for less time than that, who've told me that I owe them money for this reason or that, after I have helped them or kicked in or taken them on trips or whatever I've done, which is why I now live alone. You know how many times they, like, as they're on the way out the door, they want money for an apartment, and they want money for a car, and they want money for living expenses for the next 12 months, and they want...
That's what jobs are for.
One person actually wanted $50 a month in dog support.
Dog support.
$50 a month dog support.
Good God.
So, in realizing there were people like this in my life, it was kind of cool to go back to somebody who never had her hand out and was only good to me. Never, ever, ever bad to me. Not in any way.
And there are girls like that out there, you know?
Well, there aren't many, but I believe in recognizing the few there are.
I totally think that's an understatement.
Aaron, thank you. Thank you for that. This is Hope on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
How's it going, Tom?
Great.
I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, but I got to tell you messed up this time.
How?
Because if this girl was really stupid enough to let you live there rent-free and walk all over her, she's going to be walked all over for the rest of her life. She is just putting herself up to be used and abused, and if that's what she wants...
But understand, this happened when I was 23 years old. That's a long time ago. And, on top of that, she's not spent her life as a doormat. Not hardly.
Well, you know what? I know she can't be that happy right now because no one who lets someone just use them like that is going to go on and take charge and have power and have assertion in their life.
Well, I do believe that when somebody is in love, somebody may do things that they wouldn't normally do or may tolerate things they wouldn't normally tolerate. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they are a chronic doormat.
Oh, my gosh, Tom, you sound like a girl.
Well, I can tell you some people... Well, I'll tell you what, I talked to her. If I thought she was a chronic doormat, I'd tell you.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think she deserved that. If
she's 50. You understand $10,000 plus. Do you understand she's 57 years old?
How old are you, Tom?
50.
Wow. You're old. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but, I mean, believe me, by now we would know if she was a chronic doormat.
Well, I hope not. I just think that, you know what, I've made the mistake of being nice to people in my life, and I know now I don't want anything from them. All I want is them the hell out of my life.
Well, there you go. And I live alone myself, and by the way, my ex-girlfriend, she lives alone.
Good for her.
And is happy.
I hope so.
So I am an advocate for living alone.
How many cats does she have?
I think she has a cat. A cat.
She sounds like a cat lady.
Well, guess what? Most women who don't have children have some kind of pet.
I guess so. Women have an inheritance to take care of things for themselves.
Right. I think they're hardwired for it.
I know. I have 2 babies of myself I love very much.
There you go.
Well, Tom, I got to say, I've listened to you for many, many years now, and I appreciate you having me in there. I actually used to date one of your interns, but that's a whole different story.
Anyone we know?
Well, I didn't really date him, and I don't want to say his name on the air.
No, I'll let you tell Dean off the air. That's what I'll let you do.
What's that?
I'll let you tell Dean off the air. He wasn't the virgin, was he?
You know, no, he wasn't a virgin. That would have been fun, though. You know, I never had a virgin.
We had a virgin working on the show. We were trying to get him laid.
I would have done it. You should
Really?
have called me then. I'm married now, and I'm happily married, but back then.
Really? Well, hang on. I want you to tell Dean which intern we're talking about here. We won't put his name on the air, for God's sake.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
You don't have to have a girl wrapped around your finger.
Not my finger. I want you wrapped around.
The Tom Leykis Show.
It's the Tom Leykis Show. 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Chris. Hello.
Hello.
Is that a question or a statement?
Oh, that's a statement. Tom, good to hear you. How you doing?
Great.
Good. Listen, I think Hope, you were talking before, I don't think she was completely on about this ex-girlfriend of yours. I think it takes a hell of a secure individual to take in someone in a time of need who essentially did not do right by them previously. So, I mean, I commend this ex-girlfriend in New York of yours. And also the fact that you did such a good thing and you appreciate this girl and you give credit where credit's due, it shows that all your other arguments when it comes to not giving credit where it isn't due to all these, other girls out there who are gold diggers and whatnot, it really lends a lot of credence to your other arguments on that front, too. So I commend you for being an all-around Renaissance man, buddy. I really do.
Well, thank you for that. And it really is true. So many women just have their hand out.
Oh, totally.
That I think it's time we recognize the few, the very few.
Well, you did great, Tom. I've got one request. Just blow me up.
Of course I will. 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Tony. Hello.
Calling Tom. Is this Tom?
Did you want to talk to Tom?
No, you can't do it to me. I know the game. I'm sorry. I was just in the middle of doing something else and grabbed the phone quickly. Tom, I dig you so much. Sometimes it's hard to listen to your show because, of course, I can't possibly agree with everything that you say. But I always listen because I dig your big, big brain. So even if you weren't famous, even if you didn't have a bank account, I'd listen because it's all about the brain with you and me. But here's the thing, Tom, that I'm wondering. When I first heard you telling the story, I thought it was great, and I thought, there's my Tom. I knew he was a good guy deep inside. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I don't know. Tom, you're not with your girlfriend anymore, right?
I'm not with any girlfriend.
Okay, so you're broken up. You're single right now.
Yes.
I'm wondering if, unfortunately, you've kind of fallen back on that man thing, where you're kind of trying to buy her back.
Oh, no. No. I'm not trying to buy her back. I do not want to be in a relationship. I don't think she wants to be in a relationship.
Well,
it's nothing of the kind.
I know, and I'm just...
And she lives 3,000 miles away.
Well, I understand, and I just wondered, it's like, I know you're always digging into women for being gold diggers, and, I'm right there with you, but it just seems to me that you kind of... I don't know. It's kind of like you just flashed your...
Well, we're not talking about somebody who can be bought. And we're not talking about anybody who ever wanted anything financial from me, ever.
I understand, but immediately, what did you do when you hadn't seen her in all these years? You took her to a premiere where you walked on a red carpet. You flashed your...
You know how much that cost me? $0. I was on the PR list.
I know, but what I'm saying is, you showed her your fame and you showed her a wallet right away. You hadn't seen her or spoken to her in a year.
I showed her why I left.
Well, all right, and I can dig that, but I'm not going to fold like a house of cards.
I understand, that's good. And that's fine. Put me to the test here, but I took her because she did not know what had happened in my career, what you know by listening every day, whether I make a TV appearance or I appear in a book or whatever happens. She has no idea about that stuff.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. Oh, she told me.
Okay, well then here's what I would submit to you. And again, I think you've got a big brain and I dig you. and I know you could out-talk me in a New York minute, no pun intended. But I would examine yourself. Why was it so important for you to tell her or show her how successful and famous you are?
And what was important was that I showed her what I was attempting to do.
I see. Okay, so it all went around the Bogosian play as well.
Yes.
Well, you know what? At the risk of sounding even more female by quoting Oprah, I think what you had was an aha moment.
I don't watch Oprah. I don't even know what that is. I can only venture to guess. But I thank you, Tom. Our email address is my name. It's tom@blowmeuptom.com. That's tom@blowmeuptom.com.
The Tom Leykis Show.